As a teenager, I had the opportunity to travel to nearly 100 national park sites throughout the country, and these sites preserve the most important places in America, the most scenic places, the most historically significant places. After traveling to Kitty Hawk, where the Wright brothers first took flight, after traveling to Alabama, Mott Field, home of the Tuskegee Airmen, and realizing that here, right on Long Island, is where Charles Lindbergh took off to go to Paris in 1927 on that very historic transatlantic flight, the first. This site is so important. At 7:52 in the morning on May 20th, 1927, a young airmail pilot named Charles Lindbergh would take off from that spot aboard his plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, and he would transform aviation history. And his flight still affects us still to this day. That event in history was one of our nation's proudest moments, and thanks to him, thanks to other aviators, aviation and flying on an airplane is a viable means of transportation and an integral part of our society. 2 years ago, I suggested legislation to be introduced in Congress by my representative, Carolyn McCarthy, and I worked with her on a bill which is entitled the Long Island Aviation History Act. If passed in Congress, this bill would direct the U.S. Secretary of the Interior to conduct a feasibility study of important and historical aviation sites in Nassau and Suffolk County, and this study would determine if they could be part of the national park system. And that's my main goal, is for these sites to become part of the national park system and not to be only recognized on the local and county level, but on the national level. So that's my first step. A few weeks ago, we had a press conference with myself, Supervisor Murray, Town Councilwoman Gooseby, and they voiced their support that that site needs to be preserved, and I was very happy to be with them. On September 18th, the town of Hempstead, the Town Landmarks Preservation Committee will be holding a meeting, and during that meeting they will discuss the future of that monument, and the goal is for the town to designate it as a town landmark. So after the committee agrees to that, it will go to the town board for a vote. So that's where it stands now on the town level. I suggested a new piece of federal legislation to be introduced by the Long Island Congressional Delegation called the Charles A. Lindbergh National Monument Establishment Act of 2012. This act would designate that site as a national monument, thus part of the national park system, and not just here on Long Island. The piece of legislation calls for the establishment of 2 national monuments honoring the life and legacy of Charles Lindbergh, and most importantly, his historic 1927 transatlantic flight. The other site would be in St. Louis, Missouri, where he had a major impact on the state of Missouri and the city of St. Louis. So in the fall, I'll be meeting with Representative Carnahan from St. Louis.